All right, final word, Adam Collins, Jeff Lemon, segment 3. Why don't we start it, Jeff? Why don't we mix up the order here and do a little bit of...
Nerd Pledge. Let's do it. Nerd Pledge. It is the game that we play with the nice people on the internet who fund this program by sending in contributions in a very specific configuration, a number that relates to cricket in some way. We have to figure out what it means. This is a revisited number. It came in from Rossi. It was $2.14. You initially, Adam, were looking at Law 21.4, which was the obstruction law about a bowler trying to run out the standing batter while in the approach to the crease. Do you remember this? You were getting quite interested in this boutique idea of a dismissal.
Yes, the idea that, when you're running in, you could stop and throw the stumps down at the striker's end. And having never seen this happen, but apparently I think from memory we found a first-class game where it happened. I saw a clip during the week, which isn't exactly that, but it's kind of adjacent to it, where Dean Jones was batting at Adelaide Oval and David Hooks was at first slip. And what Hooksy did was he came up at first slip well in front of the wicketkeeper and stood there waiting for a wide delivery from the bowler and stood and knowing that Jones batted always out of his crease. And he caught the ball instead of the keeper and pinged the stumps down. And Jones was short of his ground. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant from Hooksy. So I've never seen that either, but it's in that mold of dismissal where you're detecting that a player is out of their crease and there is a way, but not anymore because the MCC, would I be right in saying, I think my answer concluded with something like the MCC tightened it up that it wasn't possible anymore, or some version of this.
We'd have to go back and listen to the episode to actually remember the finer details of it. But it was the idea that, because there was the one in a Sheffield Shield game where the player stepped into the path of the ball as it was thrown, when it was Charlie Stobo, wasn't it, who was coming into bowl?
Oh, that's right.
Tried to throw the stumps down around the batter's legs, who got into the path of it. Anyway, that was we talked about that for a while. That was not the right answer. Rossi, I assume the bootmaker, maybe vying for naming rights. Maybe Blundstone Stadium won't be that anymore once they lose Test cricket down at Belrive. Maybe Rossi can swoop in. Maybe Rossi can get Macquarie Point. There you go. Battle of the Boots down in Hobart. Sent in a subsequent clue, if you could share that with the audience.
Yes, I will. Now, what do we got? Unfortunately, I forgot to mention the date I signed up. So Rossi signed up on the 20th of October 2023. That's when this event or series of events happened for the 4th time. It was during the Australia-Pakistan World Cup match in our 4-yearly reminder that one-day cricket is not dead. Yes, this was a game at the Chinnaswamy Stadium. Jeff, I remember you doing this one. It was where Mitch Marsh and David Warner both made tons, and then they won by a fucking mile, something like that.
Yes, it was a Pakistan-Australia game. We've talked about David Warner today, so why not more?
Yes.
Warner was absolutely teeing off. It was a hell of an innings, that one. It's when he played that scoop, sort of square scoop, where he comes across, kneels down outside the off stump and then flicks it over the leg side, that hit the roof. It hit like the rim just underneath the roof that goes all the way around the Chinnaswamy. Massive hit. It was probably his last completely dominant great innings, because that was the game before the Netherlands game. He made 100 against the Dutch, but it wasn't it wasn't quite the same caliber of bowling, and it wasn't quite as completely dominant. So it was a hell of an innings to watch from Warner. 214 does have 4 in it. For a minute, we were considering whether this might be to do with Warner's 4th consecutive 100 against Pakistan in one-day cricket, because his last 4 innings against them were all centuries. He made 130 and 179 in the space of a few days in January 2017. Then he played them at Taunton in the 2019 World Cup and made that 107 when Muhammad Ami was bowling so well.
The comeback 100. It was
yes.
the first 100 since the suspension.
True.
I remember that.
That's
We're
right.
both there.
And then didn't play them again until the next World Cup, when he made that 163 at the Chinna. Career average of 59.92 against Pakistan is his best against one of the major powers in cricket. He's only got better averages in small sample sizes against Netherlands, Bangladesh, Ireland, Afghanistan. So, and we do sometimes forget in the Warner story that 2200s in 159 innings is like way ahead of almost anybody else. He's a genuine one-day international great. I mean, Ricky Ponting made 29 one-day hundreds for Australia, plus one in a Jazz game. Warner made 22. So, and Ponting played about more than twice as many matches, I think. So anyway, not the only opener to get a ton that day. Mitch Marsh makes 121 from 108 balls, just straight driving him down the ground to oblivion. The partnership was 259 by the time it ended, Australia's fourth biggest ever partnership in one-day cricket. David Warner has a share of all of the top five of Australia's biggest one-day partnerships, by the way, which seems significant. He put on 258 with Aaron Finch, 259 with Marsh, 260 with Steve Smith, 269 and 284 with Travis Head. For all countries, in terms of opening partnerships, it's the 10th biggest opening partnership ever. And for all partnerships, for all countries, it's 19th. So a serious, serious stand. The number, though, is 214, not 259. That is because, I posit, 214 was the score when Mitchell Marsh reached his century after Warner had already reached a century. So that was the point where both openers scored hundreds. We're looking for the fourth time this has happened. It's not the fourth time it had happened for Australia in one-day cricket because both openers scoring hundreds has happened 7 times. But it is the fourth time for it to happen for any team at a Men's World Cup. So Sri Lanka in Kandy in 2011 against Zimbabwe, Upul Taranga 133, Tilakaratan Dilshan 144. They both got out. The rest of their order made 3, 9, 11, 0, 4 and 8. So it rather fell away, but they still won by a mile. Same team, same tournament in the quarterfinals. This one's quite funny, actually. England in Colombo, classic that era of England one-day cricket. They're wheezing and scraping away. Oh, it's a tough pitch. They get to 229 for 6 in their 50 overs. They go at 4.5 and over. Jonathan Trott, 86 from 115 balls. Ravi Bopara, 31 from 56. Oh, they're working hard out there. They send Graham Swan up to pinch hit, who makes a golden duck. Luke Wright faces 3 balls at number 8. I mean, Luke Wright was a T20 smasher. How the hell did Graham Swan go ahead of Luke Wright? So one of their best strikers of the ball faces 3 balls in the innings for 1 not out. And then Taranga and Dilshan, same opening partnership, run it down, 10 wickets in hand in 39 overs. They make 102 and 106 and just laugh at England all the way off the field. And then eventually Sri Lanka got a taste of their own medicine in the 2019 World Cup when India did the same thing to them, 264 for 7. Big Ange makes 100, but Rohit and KL Rahul put on 189 for the opening partnership. Both made hundreds. Although I did check, I was curious about this. KL Rahul's only on 81 when Rohit Sharma gets out. So they didn't have 2 players with centuries at the same time. They didn't have both openers with centuries on the board. So if Rossi was being really strict about the categorisation, that one might not qualify. But that was the 4th instance, Warner and Marsh, of both openers getting 100 in a Men's World Cup game in 50-over cricket. And that, I'm very confident, is your 214.
Terrific. Yep, I remember that last game in 2019 you referred to. It was at Leeds. We were up at Manchester. There were games at the same time. Well, same day, one on either side of the Pennines to end the group stage before we found out who was going to make the semis and all the rest of it. So nice reference point there to finish. Okay, beautiful. That's Nerd Pledge. You can get the ad-free feed as well. Patreon.com/thefinalword. This is the lifeblood of The Final Word. Join Discord. Go to the cricket with a shitload of other lovely people. Be part of our lives in the way that we follow the game around the world. The best way to do it, patreon.com/thefinalword. Join Discord, support the show, be on Nerd Pledge, all of these things. And there'll be 2 episodes of Storytime. Kind of in a hurry here. We didn't get one out last week because of life getting in the way. But we will have one that is out before the test match at Nottingham. And then one will follow at the end of the test match at Nottingham, however long that takes. If it's 3 days, it'll be out on day 4. If it's 5 days, it'll be out on the non-existent day 6. That's the way we will do it. Patreon.com/thefinalword. Jeff, as I mentioned before the break, still a few things floating around that we haven't gotten to as yet. One is a blow-up that is clearly coming in Pakistani cricket. Now, Daniel Rasul's been all over this. Daniel, who we had on the show as our Pakistani correspondent earlier this year in Sydney. Now, there's 2 things going on this week. The first one is they've sacked 2 selectors because, that's what they do. Having not won the T20 World Cup,
got to sack
Wahab
somebody.
Riaz and Abdul Razak, who'd only been there 5 minutes, have both hit the fence. In the case of Wahab,
is he still the sports minister for one of the states?
One of
Wahab
the regions,
Riaz?
right? One of the states. I think he is. Yeah, but and has that cafe in Lahore as well, doesn't he?
Busy guy. Got a lot going on.
Yeah, but But that detail about there's 7 people on their selection committee would be fucking chaos. Imagine having 7 people around the table trying to pick a cricket team. But they'd never appointed anyone as the chairman of selectors. So Wahab was the de facto chairman.
Okay.
And yeah, Abdul Razak presumably was I guess he must have been a supporter, which is why he's hit the fence as well. So that's going on one hand. On the other side of it, Naseem Shah. Now, this feels like a bit of a test case to me. Naseem Shah has been, again, according to Daniel's reporting, been told he's not going to be given an NOC for the 100. So he's been signed for the Birmingham Phoenix at the £125,000 marker, which is not small money, by the way. No. For 3 weeks' work, for Naseem Shah, they don't have the gigantic national contracts in Pakistan that other countries do. That's a significant wedge. And he's been denied on the basis that they're not letting their all-format players play in all the tournaments they want to. The little wrinkle here, or the tension, you might say, is that in the PCB multi-year contracts, and all of the multi-format players have got them, they're 3-year deals, and within it, you can play 2 tournaments per year, as long as it doesn't clash with Pakistan cricket, right? The 100 doesn't clash with Pakistan cricket. So Naseem should be in the clear, as should, for the global T20 Canada nonsense, Shaheen, Barber, and Rizwan have all signed up for that one.
Right.
And again, it sounds like they're going to get their
King City.
Permission.
They're Ontario freaks. They love Ontario. They love being an hour north of Toronto in a field next to a highway. That's where they feel good. That's where they feel comfortable. They feel confident. They feel at home. They got there in the first year of the global T20 and they went, yes, Canada, King City, this is us. I'm going to keep coming back here for the next 30 years. I'm going to be the Wilfred Rhodes of King City. That's it. And you can see why. You can see if you've ever driven up through that part of the world, it's flat, it's dull, there's nothing happening. What a place to be.
I have driven up there, actually. When I was a youngster, when I lived in Buffalo, New York for a year, I went up to a place called, it was Lake Brule, I think it was called, which is like 5 hours north of Toronto. So in that general direction where you're referring to. But yeah, playing on a synth, though, in the cold in Canada, who'd want to be anywhere else? Maybe you can do a day trip to Guelph, Ontario.
Yeah,
or to London,
you're
Ontario.
Probably only 3 hours from Sudbury. You can go and see the smokestacks. You can go and check out the old smelters. You can find the rivers where they used to murder beavers in their hundreds of thousands to rip the fur off them to make hats. What a place!
Yeah, you can go to Buffalo, New York. Go to where I was from. Go to Niagara Falls, or don't. Like Niagara Falls isn't like, it's fine, but it's not. It didn't take me. It didn't grip me. Niagara Falls. I don't know. Maybe that's more about me.
Go over it in a barrel. That's the way to get to know Niagara Falls. It's an intimate experience.
Okay. Like Robert Smith in I can't remember which Cure film clip now when he goes over the cliff in a wardrobe. Don't think that was Niagara Falls though. Right, where are we? So so these NOCs that are not being given is going to be the catalyst for all hell breaking loose. You can just see, can't you? Naseem Shah not being able to make his money. The reason they're doing it, and this isn't wrong by the way, from August 21 they've got a World Test Championship series against Sri Lanka. So I think it's reasonable to say they don't want Naseem Shah playing short form cricket directly before it. And their multi-format players are busy every month from October through to May. So similar to what we were discussing earlier with Australia, except with Australia, they've chosen, the lever they've pulled is we'll pull you out. We'll give you a rest in some of our time and you can keep playing the franchise stuff. But Pakistan are going the other way. So one to keep an eye on because, well, over there at the moment, it does feel like it's... yes, it's a bit of a tinderbox. Just, they're not doing well in the T20 World Cups. On top of all that administrative change early in the year.
I could see them yanking the Canada permission just on the basis of embarrassment. Like it's beneath you to play this tournament. Don't do it. Go and do something else. But yeah,
have a holiday.
The 100 money. I'm like, okay, well, if the PCB want to cough up and pay him the cash that he would otherwise be getting paid, then they can tell him not to go. But their national contracts don't actually give them that amount of leverage.
Jeff, just coming back to England, we mentioned the 100. We're not far away from that starting in a couple of weeks. The time being. We're at that sort of busy period of the Blast where we're getting lots and lots of games most days between Thursdays and Sunday, where they play 14 group games in the Blast. They've all played sort of somewhere between 12 and 13. I'm not going to bother giving you a recap of that this week because there's just too much cricket to stay on top of. But we're not far away from having the quarters, and maybe that's when we'll go back to it in some depth. The Birmingham Bears, the Lancashire Lightning, the Leicestershire Foxes, and the Northern Steelbacks, North Hants even, are in the qualifying spots from the North Group.
What's a
and from the
Steelback?
South Group?
Ever thought about it? I've never thought about it.
No,
I know a razorback is a pig, and I know that a diamondback is a snake. What's a steelback? Steelback.
Not sure. The South Group, Surrey, Sussex, Somerset, Essex, to go in that same way I explained the previous four, going up in melody. Surrey on 18 points. They've already confirmed their home quarterfinal. Sussex, I think they've locked up a quarterfinal berth as well. Gloucestershire could knock off Essex if everything went right in their final game and net run rate and that kind of thing. In terms of things to note, Michael Pepper made the quickest 100 of the season, 120 not out from 53 balls.
Essex chasing down. Imagine if they played together.
I think Henry Moran did make that joke on Twitter.
No, everybody. A joke has been made, I don't know how many hundreds of times over the last few years.
So Pepper, they chased down 207 against Sussex with plenty of time to spare. That keeps them in the 4. And I mentioned Surrey are up top. That's in part due to Will Jacks making 86 and beating Essex, their divisional rivals, by 13 runs. So another home quarterfinal for Surrey. But let's leave the blast there because it's just too unwieldy. It's just too difficult to know what's happening. So,
are we on pause in the Rachel Hey-Ho? Because I was looking at the recent results and there are still 4 games per team to go, but they're not happening until... Do they happen after the 100?
No, so what you're getting at is that's right. We've got 10 games done, and now we're on pause until August. So this is the end of the block, and they played rounds of hey-ho games last, I think it was Wednesday and Friday, I reckon it was, from memory. So in terms of the ladder positions, so 10 of the 14 gone, the Vipers on 34 points, the Diamonds on 32, the Stars on 27, the Sunrisers on 25. It would take a fair bit for them not to be the top 4 teams there. In terms of the games played on Wednesday and Friday, we saw the Thunder beat the Sparks in a low-scoring, rain-affected scrap. Emma Lamb, 71 not out in the chase. The Diamonds beat the Sunrisers, which was important because they're both in the top 4 by 4 wickets. They only had 110 to chase, though. Beth Langston, former England international. She was in that World Cup squad in 2017 from memory, Jeff. I think she was one of the bowlers who was in the 15 and thus is a World Cup winner. 6 for 24, still a star at domestic cricket level. Erin Burns, 35 not out in the chase for the Diamonds. We all like Erin Burns, the Australian. Southeast Stars were defeated by the Vipers by 7 wickets. Again, another low-scoring game. The Stars were all out for 120. Freya Davies, who is fallen off the England contract list but still doing her thing for the Vipers, took 4 for 14. Then Charlie Knott made 57 not out. The Western Storm made 217 against the Blaze, but it wasn't enough. They had it chased down in 42.3 overs. Sarah Bryce, more runs, 61 for her and her sister Catherine. What do you know? 4 for 20. Catherine Bryce always taking wickets every game she plays in. The Western Storm's next fixture was against the Central Sparks, and they smashed them. They made 284. And has this. The Sparks were all at 102. Ignore the final margin.
Yep.
Amanda Jade Wellington, 83 from 53, right? And she was caught in the wicketkeeper's helmet.
What?
In the grill. The ball ricocheted off her blade, went stuck in the helmet, and the umpire put the finger up. Now, I actually don't know what the go is with that. I'm pretty sure my interpretation would have been if the equipment has caught the ball, then it's probably dead. But what happens when it lands in a pad or something?
Well, they changed the law on this only a couple of years ago because it used to be anything involving the headgear was dead ball. So it wasn't penalty runs if you were wearing the thing at the time. Like so there was the old, if it hits the helmet behind the wicketkeeper, 5 runs. If you take a catch in your cap, for instance, 5 penalty runs, not out. But they changed this ruling so that, because it used to be if it lodged in your clothing, that was a catch. Remember Adam Voges taking a catch in his jumper at short leg some years ago when it was a pull shot, I think, that was hit at him that got stuck in the cable nid. But it used to be that anything in the clothing was, so caught in the pads at short leg or caught behind or whatever, was still a catch. But the helmet, if it came off the helmet, it was a dead ball. And so they changed that to keep the ball live so that the ball is still in play if it hits the headgear, which means it's still live if it lodges in the grill and you pluck it out.
So that is out.
So it's out. So it's a catch.
Okay. Well, it's a shame for Wello, though. 83 for 53. Smashing it. Yeah. I think I saw she's on the 100 contract list. There's the 50K, 40K, 30K, 2010. It's done in that structure this year. I think she's on 30,000. I mean, she dominates that tournament. She should be on the biggest money going. Anyway. Katie George took a fifer in that game as well, just noting that she's back bowling and going well, which I'm pleased to see, having had all those troubles with her back over the years. Good person, Katie George. The Southeast Stars beat the Sunrisers on Friday by 44 runs. Bryony Smith top scoring with 84. Danny Gregory taking 3 for 37. Mm-hmm. And in the only other completed game, no, they didn't complete it, sorry. There was a washout up at Lincoln where the Northern Diamonds made 188 for 8 against the Blaze in 26 overs, going very nicely. Best Heath half century, but then the rain got the better of them, as it did at the Northwest Thunder game, home game against the Vipers, where they were washed out. So, as you say, Jeff, we pause now for the 100 in domestic women's cricket, and then we come back for the business.
But I'm excited. I'm particularly excited about fourth spot because the Sunrisers are in fourth spot, and the Sunrisers were the worst team in world cricket for a long period of time. It was story time related. I ended up looking back through their results over the last few days, but they lost across the 50 over and the 20 over comps. They lost out of 39 of their first 42 games in the two competitions. They won 2 and had a tie. So they had 2 wins out of 42 to start things off. And then they had a decent year last year, got a few wins in the 50 over comp, wasn't it? And then this year, they had a poor 20 over comp this year, only won a couple. But they're top 4. They're in contention. They've got 4 games to go. They can still bomb out. But the Sunrisers, they're a chance. They're a chance to make the playoffs. And let's see how they deal with that postseason pressure.
It'd be great. I mean, you're right. They didn't win a game in their first 2 seasons. Anna Collins was the nerd pledge on that, I remember from she'd watched a lot of their games. And I played an MCC game with one of their assistant coaches on Friday, Robbie, who was telling me the story of how they've been able to turn it around. And, the investment in Grace Scrivens and a lot of the focus on her. But like off the field, they've got everything purring. And they have real ambition, that team. It's a shame in a way because, of course, next year they'll be over at Essex and the whole thing will change when they go back to the counties. Yeah. But it's nice that in the last year of this setup, in the 4th and final year of, 4th or 5th, sorry, it started in 2020, didn't it? So 5 years, there'll be this weird, quirky bit in the history of women's domestic cricket in England where these clubs were, like these pop-up clubs happened. They did important things and they became obsolete. But still, before it goes back to the counties and the Sunrisers, the majority of those players will play for Essex next year. And I suppose some of them might play for Middlesex and wait their turn when they inevitably get a tier 1 club a few years after. That's the one, I think I'm right in saying, Jeff, that Middlesex are the only 100 team, along with MCC, but I know it's a joint operation there, that doesn't have a tier 1, but there's still 1 or 2 spots left, something like that. The goalpost changed a few times there. So, but that's the story of the Sunrisers. And Jeff, that's the story of the final word.
The tale of the tape.
Been the tale of the tape. Season 16, episode 23. Ad-free feed, Patreon. It's where the one tangible thing you can do to help us make as many episodes of the show as we do is chuck a coin in the tin, become part of our community, patreon.com/thefinalword. We thank Westfield for everything they do for us as well. Everybody for listening. Our next episode will be Storytime 193. That's been fun. That's the lot.
Find out about cup sizes. We'll see you soon.